Introduction. A call to awareness. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. We gather not just to discuss, but to confront an issue that profoundly affects the lives of millions. Tonight, I will talk about the dark reality of labor exploitation in the modern world, focusing on practices involving Chinese enterprises, both domestically and globally. But first, let me take a moment to invite you to an interactive session I'll be hosting later this evening. At 8 p.m., we'll dive deeper into today's discussion, answer your questions, and explore actionable steps we can take together. I hope you'll join us. Now, let us begin with a recent and shocking case that unfolded in Brazil. This story sheds light on the systemic exploitation that affects countless workers worldwide. Earlier this year, Brazilian authorities uncovered a harrowing situation involving 163 Chinese workers at a factory owned by BYD, a major electric vehicle company. These workers were not hired directly by the company but through intermediaries, a practice that creates multiple layers of accountability issues. The workers were reportedly subjected to deplorable conditions. Their passports were confiscated, effectively trapping them in a foreign land. Moreover, up to 60% of their wages were withheld as security deposits. This blatant exploitation not only violated labor rights but also human dignity. Why Chinese workers in Brazil? You may wonder, why did this company employ Chinese workers in Brazil rather than hiring locally? It's not just a matter of economics, it's a deliberate strategy to exploit vulnerable workers who may have fewer legal protections or less knowledge of their rights in foreign countries. This approach allows companies to cut costs while bypassing local labor laws. Unfortunately, this incident is just one example of a much larger issue that spans industries and borders. Exporting exploitation. The practices seen in Brazil have roots in systemic issues within China itself. In some Chinese factories, workers are forced to endure long hours, low pay, and even physical abuse. Migrant workers and ethnic minorities often face the brunt of this exploitation. One particularly chilling case reported workers being subjected to electric shocks for attempting to leave their jobs. These abuses are not just isolated incidents, they are part of a pattern that reflects deeper systemic flaws in labor governance. Labor exploitation across borders. What happened in Brazil is not unique. Similar patterns of labor exploitation have been documented in countries as diverse as Italy, where Chinese-owned factories have been accused of mistreating workers, and even in Japan, where foreign trainees often find themselves in precarious situations. During the COVID-19 pandemic, there were reports of Chinese employers prioritizing imported labor over local workers in Italy, further exacerbating tensions and inequalities. The impact on Japan. Japan faces its own challenges with labor exploitation, particularly under the Technical Intern Training Program. Reports of wage theft, unsafe conditions, and restricted freedoms for foreign workers tarnish Japan's reputation and highlight the global nature of this problem. If left unaddressed, these practices threaten to undermine labor markets, disrupt communities, and erode trust in global economic systems. Raise awareness. The first step to solving any problem is understanding it. Many of these injustices persist because they remain hidden from public view. By shining a light on these issues, we can demand accountability and inspire change. Make ethical choices. As consumers, we hold significant power. By choosing products from companies that prioritize ethical labor practices, we can send a strong message to industries worldwide. Look for certifications, support transparency, and be vocal about your expectations as a consumer. Advocate for policy change. Systemic problems require systemic solutions. Governments must enforce strict labor standards and close loopholes that allow exploitation to thrive. At the same time, international organizations should play a more active role in ensuring companies comply with ethical guidelines, regardless of where they operate. Conclusion: a vision for change. Ladies and gentlemen, labor exploitation is not just a distant problem, it is one that affects us all. Every product we use, every service we rely on, may have been touched by the hands of someone who was denied their basic rights. But the good news is this: change is possible. Through awareness, ethical choices, and advocacy, we can build a world where every worker is treated with dignity and respect. I urge each of you to reflect on what we've discussed today. Consider how you can contribute to this cause, whether by educating yourself, supporting fair trade, or speaking out against injustices. Together, we can create a future where exploitation has no place. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to continuing this conversation during tonight's live session.